Now, before I say anything else, I want to make it very clear. This video is not a pass to one, either demonize another individual or go out and slander anybody or carry hate in your heart for any individual that I'm referring to regarding this video. There is a transgender crisis in America, and that's what I'm calling it because honestly, of all things that I'm going to talk about, this one hits a little bit closer to home. Now, you might be wondering, how do trans people have anything to do with you? Listen, I don't know about you, but I plan on having kids one day, and the idea that a man can put on a dress and walk in the same restroom as my daughter and that just be something that's okay, I don't believe that that's making any sense. Now we're having laws passed that are classifying pedophiles as minor attracted persons and nonsense like that. It's all very much interlinked in a certain way, and I want to kind of brush up on that right now. Now, when I pull this out and I unsheath it, what can you immediately call this? This is a sword, correct? So we know this is a sword because of what? Because of language. Because for thousands of years, this sword and this bow staff that I'm holding in my hand have been referred to as such, and that is the general classification. Now, what if somebody were to come up to me and refer to this sword as a potato chip? Now, that may be very well and dandy inside of your own home or in your own world where, all that really matters is what you think. But when we go out into a larger scheme of things and when we consult the history of the sword and weapons of that nature, we can very clearly and instantly discern from truth and from falsehood in that regard, because that's really all language comes down to. There's truth and there's falsehood, there's fact and there's opinion, right? If somebody were to call this sword a potato chip, I, as well as many other people, would likely consider that person either one of two things. Now, this may be one of two things that you have not thought about just yet, but I want to bring it to the forefront. One, this person may be mentally ill, or two, they may just feel like calling it that. And if they feel like calling it that, then hey, so be it, right? That's fine. Now, this is a much less harmless example. I was watching a podcast the other day where there was a panel of women who were asked what a woman is. One of their answers, and keep in mind, all of their answers were very nebulous and similar. So the the last and most outspoken one says that it's a vibe that you give off. That's what really kind of put into perspective that we have a problem in this country, because okay, if I were to call that sword a potato chip and if we were to start calling a woman a vibe that you give off, in order to be a woman, that's all you have to do is give off a certain vibe, then we have to start agreeing that it only serves right to become very inconsistent in other areas of our language. Instead of calling this hair, we have to start calling this feet. And instead of calling this a watch, we're going to start calling this a tourniquet. That's the problem when you decide that consistency in language just doesn't really matter too much to you. And obviously you can get into the history of language and what's really true or what's really consistent, but we have general facts that we all accept and we all know to be true. That's how we maintain some semblance of sanity and some semblance of cohesion in society. So when you want to get inconsistent in one area, we have no choice but to get inconsistent in other areas, because it's all falling down as we speak, right? You can't be consistent in one area and inconsistent in another area. That's how you get delusion. That's where nonsense starts floating around. So as they were struggling to define what a woman is, me and you more than likely already understand that a woman is an adult human female. She has ovaries, she has a uterus, and she's capable of giving birth. We know that a man is incapable of doing that, correct? A man has testicles, testosterone primarily, and flowing through his testicles, correct? This should be very simple. This shouldn't be something that we have to struggle with. And if an individual refuses to grasp that, because you either refuse to grasp it or you grasp it and you simply don't want to acknowledge it because it goes against how you feel. One, if somebody doesn't grasp this, that's more on the cusp of mental illness, right? This is something that we should be paying attention to this individual to attempt to help them and to alleviate this issue, right? Because when our mind starts to go to war with itself and we start to think certain things, like let's say a young man is going through puberty and he starts to feel uncomfortable in his own skin, it is very irresponsible to tell that young man that maybe, just maybe, he was born in the wrong body. I don't care if he picks up a Barbie. I don't care if he picks up a tiara. It does not give you the right to tell that young man he was born in the wrong body because he's experimenting and he's playing around with things, when as long as somebody actually listens to him and cares, they will sit here and they will help him understand that this may just be a temporary phase. Maybe he's just exploring things. It's a difficult world we live in, correct? It's a very difficult world we live in. So to push something so final, so irreversible onto a child, these effects, you can't go back from a lot of this stuff. Letting people under the age of 25 in general go through a gender affirming care or surgery, does that not seem inane? The brain isn't even fully formed and developed until about 25 years old. So how is anybody under that age range able to make such a permanent decision? Does that not seem harmful to anybody else? Does that not seem problematic? And then that's just one sector of things. That's just one sector of things, right? Let's say this person simply just doesn't feel like acknowledging the truth of the situation. You know what? I know this is a sword. I know I'm a girl, but I feel like a man. I feel like this is a potato chip. So now that's what I'm going to classify it as. Now, if you were to leave that within your own world and you didn't try to force it and indoctrinate other people with this ideology, it would be 100% fine. That's cool. Honestly, I love everybody, dude. I love everybody. The only issue I have is when you try to force this not only onto other people, but other people's offspring, especially the kids. This should not be taught in schools. This should not be something that the kids have to deal with. They shouldn't be dealing with anything sexuality oriented ever as children. As children, this is not right. This is sick. This is sick. Kids need to be worried about playing video games and going to after school practice with their friends and getting their heart broken and learning different lessons about life, like worried about apple juice. They shouldn't be worried about sexuality or sex at all. I don't know why this is such a hard thing to grasp, but the issue really stems from when they have this emotional perspective on something and people affirm it. Oh, you feel this way? Act on it. Great. That's how school shootings happen. Oh, you feel anger towards this kid because he bullied you, or you feel anger towards this kid because this girl likes him instead of you. Okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm angry. I'm gonna act on that. When has that ever worked? Ever? When has that ever been a good idea? This lack of emphasis on self-control and emotional stability, or at the very least emotional control, not acting on every single thing you feel, not every single impulse you feel. I don't know about you, but listen, my emotions fluctuate hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, depending on how crazy the day is, right? So for me to sit here and make a decision based on every single emotional state that I've ever felt, my life would be in shambles. And it has been in shambles because I have done that, and plenty of other people have done that. This is an irrefutable fact. We cannot sit here and act like acting on every single emotional impulse you get does not lead to very bad things. That is the point of self-control. That is the point of emotional regulation. And let's not even, listen, girls, I love you. I promise. Listen, I'm a straight man. I love my women. Have you ever been on a date with a woman trying to decide what she wants to eat while you guys are out? Have you ever been in a relationship with a woman? She will be mad at you in the morning, angry at you by afternoon, breaking down crying by mid-afternoon, approximately 45 seconds later, and then she'll be all over you by 2 p.m. cuddling while you guys are watching anime and eating Snickers. Knowing that that level of volatility exists within the human brain, why are we not sitting here and setting strict boundaries on what we allow people to act on? It's this level of pandering and nebulous language and nebulous beliefs that's causing so much harm to people. Jesus said, love thy labor. He never said lie to them or affirm potentially their delusions. He never said that. To tell your child that, let's say your child feels like going out and doing something extremely stupid, right? Or maybe it's not, let's actually dial it back. Let's make it a very simple example. Your child is walking through the kitchen. He sees the stove is on. It's hot. It's interesting. It's fun. He wants to touch it because he thinks it's going to drop a candy corn out and he's going to get to eat that and he's going to feel good about himself. Okay. Instead of telling him, you know what, son, the fact that you feel like that means you should act on that. That's 100% a great idea. Go ahead and do it. Maybe instead of doing that and letting this man get burned, I understand we have to teach people lessons, but that's more of an act of discipline. Now you're arguing you want to discipline people by letting them make permanent decisions. It just doesn't work. The rationale isn't there because now you don't seem like a very moral person. Instead of doing that, maybe we tell our son, you know what, son, I know you feel like you want to touch that, but I promise you, you should not. And as your parent, it's my responsibility because I love you to tell you that that is not a good idea. You will not act on that. You will exercise self-control. You will not touch that stove. You know what? What you're going to do is you're going to help me clean this kitchen so that I can take you to Chuck E. Cheese like you wanted. What you're going to learn to do is you're going to learn to work for what you want so that you can get rewarded for that work. That's what you're going to learn instead of acting on every single one of your emotional impulses, which is absolutely inane. And that's the state of where we are today. That's how we got to this point. People who refuse to call out delusion for what it is. And listen, let's set the record straight, right? I love everybody, and I'm going to continue to stand on this because it's true. If somebody reaches the firm age of 25, where they're an adult, they're responsible for all of their own decisions, they're personally sovereign, and they want to do this, I'm not going to sit there and judge them. In fact, I'm going to support them because that's what they decided to do. I may believe it's extremely unnatural, and I believe I don't identify with the lifestyle. However, this person is an adult now. They didn't have that shoved into them from when they were a child. Maybe they have learned emotional control by this point. They're stable people. They're supporting themselves. And then they want to do it. Okay, great. Am I still going to want a grown man to be able to put on a dress and go into the same bathroom as my daughter? No. So in that aspect, I will not support it. But you know what? You're personally sovereign. If that's what you want to do in your life, where it doesn't affect anybody else, that is great. But the moment it starts affecting other people, like this grown man who, just look it up, right? There's a grown man who's competing in women's swimming, and it's just such an insult to all the female athletes that worked hard and spent the hours and the time and the dedication to go out and practice, basically drowning themselves in order to feel proud and achieve an accomplishment. My phone died, but yeah. To achieve an accomplishment, all to have it ripped away by somebody with an insurmountable advantage over them, one that cannot be reconciled with work harder, one that is literally genetically impossible for them to overcome. And even if they do get the ability to overcome it, why should they have to? They're at a disadvantage from the jump. You cannot sit here and claim that you care about women's rights or you care about these people or that people when you're sacrificing the countless people who are being negatively affected by indoctrinating people and propagandizing them into making a permanent decision, one that's against our very biology. We can't sit here and keep pandering to this nonsense. At some point, somebody has to stand up and say, you know what? I don't think you were born in the wrong body. You might just be going through something right now. A man is this and a woman is this. These are the distinct differences between the two. If you want to challenge that in the future, go ahead. But right now, this is what it is. Let's start being consistent in our language. Let's stop being afraid to tell the truth because we want to appease to people's emotions. Let me tell you something. If this country were to go to war today, all this appeasing emotions and pandering to lollipop, this world is not cupcakes and fucking fruit snacks. All right, this world, the truth of this world is very difficult. It's very violent at its core. The very least you can do for somebody in this world is to tell them the truth regardless of how they may feel, because if something really bad and really catastrophic were to happen, whether they feel like they were being born in the wrong body would be the least of their problems. Let them know. Be afraid. Don't be afraid to hurt feelings. In order to be able to think, you have to risk offending people because it's what causes them to think. But you know, we can go so deep down this rabbit hole. There's such a deep bag to this. And I think about it a lot just because of my children in the future. I fear for them. Honestly, I really do fear for them. And I'm going to fight to make sure that they live in a world that makes some sense. But, you know, let me know how you feel in the comment section below before we go. Jesus, Lord, I pray this individual who's watching this video right now is showered in the light of your love. I pray that if they do not agree with me, Lord, I pray that they have their own compelling convictions for doing so. And I pray that they will be open to other sources of perspective, Lord, honestly. In this day and age, it's so hard to discern from what's true and what's not. It's so hard to discern from right and wrong. because people claim such moral high ground, Lord. But at the end of the day, your judgment will reveal the true intentions of their heart. And I pray this person watching this video is blessed and anointed in your light, Lord. If they are lost, please, I want you to guide them back on the right path. I want you to be with them, whether they accept you or reject you, Lord. However, we know your judgment is eternal. You know your judgment is final. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Lord, please protect this individual. Amen. Be a change, which will inspire. I'm out.